Hey guys, today I want to show you how to remove, clean, and retape decals so that if you want to paint them and paint them any color you want, you know the process of having to take it off, retape them with two-phase tape, and then reinstall them. And I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible so you guys could do this at home. And here we go. Now the two tools that I recommend that you guys can use is a spatula like this. This is just a simple spatula that you would use to do compound in your house. You can get this from any home improvement store, or you could use this. This is called a spreader. We use this in the body shop and paint industry to spread body filler or metal glaze, whichever. These is soft, so this won't cut into your paint when you're trying to remove this. This can be a little bit sharp sometimes, so if it has sharp edges, you might want to put some tape on the edges to cover up the sharp edges, so that way when you're trying to pry through the decals, it won't damage your paint. So let me give you an example. You see this? Sometimes these edges are real sharp if they're brand new, but if they're very sharp, what you can do is put a little bit of tape on the edges like this. That way you don't accidentally dig into your paint and you can take off the decals easily. Okay, so I'm gonna start removing this decal real quick, and I'm going to use the spreader just because it's gonna be faster. I'm gonna show you guys how to take it off, and then when I take them off, we're gonna start cleaning everything up so that way we can retape it and it can stick properly. So what you want to do is you want to get right behind the decal itself. You're going to start seeing it's going to start peeling away little by little. Take your time, don't rush, because you don't want anything to scratch. Now when you have the old tape on here, I'm going to show you something that we use to remove this. Sometimes you could just use your nail and remove it like that. It starts to come off with your nail. You can use the spatula as well if your nail's not working. Just do it, take your time. You don't want to scratch anything. There. Now if there's any excess left, I'm going to show you how to clean that in a minute. Alright, now that we got the decals off, the next step is going to be to clean up the double face tape that's left behind on the body of the car and on the decals as well. First, I'm going to remove the one that's on the trunk lid over here, so that way we can move on to the decal itself. You see what I mean here? It's got that excess tape that has to be cleaned off before you go putting it back on the car. Like I said, try to use your nails first and remove as much of it as possible by pushing it back like this. Alright, now that I got a good amount of it off, I gotta clean off a little bit of this excess. Now if you still have some excess double face tape on here, what you want to do is you want to get yourself an adhesive cleaner like this. Spray it on, let it soak in, and then start removing it. Now, I go back to using this to remove the excess because I don't want to dig into the paint. Once this soaks in good, that should come off nice and smoothly. If it doesn't, just keep repeating the process until you completely take it off, because you want to remove that completely off for the decal to adhere properly to the body of the car. So now it's coming off. I'm gonna bring the camera in closer. Now I removed all of the adhesive from the body of the car. Now we're gonna go ahead and clean up the emblems themselves and then retape them. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a razor blade to clean up the excess double face tape that's on the emblems themselves. Now when you're doing this, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful. You have to be very careful, very careful. You don't want to get caught by a razor blade. It's very dangerous and you can hurt yourself. So please be very careful when using a razor blade and trying to clean up these decals. So I'm going to show you the way I do it, and hopefully you guys can follow along and used my tips so that you don't get hurt. And if you are not used to doing anything like this, maybe put on a pair of gloves. That way, if you slip, the razor blade catches the gloves and not your fingers. So this is the way I like to do it. So what I do is I'll cut a section of it away from my fingers like this, and I like kind of cut into the adhesive, kind of like this, kind of like shaving it. And you can put it on the table if you want. That way you could get a little bit of leverage and push down on it a little bit better. Basically, it's just like shaving it off. Take your time. Don't try to rush it, because I don't want you guys to get hurt trying to do this. Remember, you're dealing with very sharp razor blades. Try to take some of it off with your fingers. Luckily, that when I removed it from the car, the majority of the adhesion stood on the trunk itself. So this was not that bad to clean up. The majority of this with your fingers. There. That's pretty good. It got cleaned up pretty good. I didn't really have to even use my razor blade. In some cases you might have to use the razor blade. Like, let's say in a case like this emblem still has the majority of the adhesive on it. I would definitely have to remove this with the razor blade, just like this. See how it cut it out? You would have to do that over and over again. It is somewhat time consuming, but your only other option would be to buy new emblems, and some of these emblems can be actually pretty pricey. Some of these can run up to $100 for some emblems. And I mean, if you can take the skill that I'm trying to show you guys and apply it to what you have to do, you can save yourself that money. But if you are scared of using razor blades the way I'm using it, I would say just go ahead and buy them, because you do not want to cut yourself, especially with razor blades. Now I'm just doing this emblem right here to show you guys how it would be if you had to remove it from an emblem that had a lot of adhesive on it. I'm basically doing it on a small section at a time, and then I'm just gonna try to shave off any excess that's on there as best as I can. You're not gonna get absolutely everything off of it. There might be some solutions that'll help you remove the excess off after you cut it off with the razor blade. So I know there was a you can use the same adhesive cleaner that I use to clean off some of the excess. That way it's as clean as possible to retape it. All right, see, now that's basically as the best as you're gonna get it. You can get some of that adhesive cleaner and clean off some of the excess. All right, now let's retape them. Now I'm gonna show you a trick that I use to retape these. And this is basically 3M. This is basically 3M double face tape. This is like 1/4 inch thick. For emblems, this is the best you're gonna be able to use, because you won't have to do that much cutting. And what it is that it sticks on one side, and then it has a protective film on the other, so that way you have it on there till you're gonna apply it to the car. So the way you do this is, since these emblems are pretty much the size of this double face tape, that's why you want to use the smaller one. So I think this is like 1/4 inch thick double face tape. Then you want to do is cut it off right as close as you can to the tip of the emblem, and that's it. That's what you have. Then you cut off whatever excess is over here. There you go. You want to make sure none of it's sticking out the edges, because that's gonna look unprofessional. So I'm gonna tape a small part here and a small part here, and then we should be done. I'm gonna cut a straight section over here and then tape it up right here, just like that. just like that. And that's it. See that? Do the same thing on the other side right here. Just like this. See that? Alright. That is ready to go. Now when we're ready to put this on the car, we will be removing this film off, and then it'll be sticky on this side as well. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of this for you guys to see. Like on this S, since this part of the S is thinner than the tape, I'm gonna show you a trick that I use so that way you don't have to cut too much. Some people would just put it here. What I like to do is I like to put it on the edge, on one edge. That way I have it on the outer edge to cut it off like this. Let me show you. So what I do is I put it on one edge just like this. That way I don't have to cut on both sides. I only have to cut on one side. So look at this. I'm gonna cut this section off right here. Right? Now this is what I'm telling you. Now there's gonna be a little bit of excess right here on this top edge of the S, right? So what you wanna do with the razor blade is you wanna kinda guide it. You wanna guide it down the top edge from this side, right? Now you could do it from this side, but if you do it from the outer side, you're gonna be pushing the tape out and it's gonna unstick. That's why I like to do it from the part that's going this way, that's sticking. So what I do is I kind of cut into it like this. I do it like in sliding cut motions, kind of like cutting something, like you're gonna cut a sandwich or you're gonna cut something, you want to cut it like this. So I start on the bottom edge of the razor blade like this, and then I slide it down little bit at a time, taking my time. I'm sliding it down just like this, and that removes that top access. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side of the S, and that's done. And so what our next step is gonna be, right, is we want to put these letters exactly on the car the way they were. So we gotta line them up now, right? We want to line them up to make sure they're straight and that they're spelling the car's name properly. So we're gonna get the letters to spell out TSX the same way it was on the car. You want to make sure it's straight. So if you can, grab something that's straight, stick it on the bottom, and make sure that the letters are straight in line with one another. You don't want anything crooked, right? All right, now we're gonna make sure it's straight. I'm just gonna use this as a template to make sure everything is straight and lined up nicely. Once I make sure everything is straight and lined up nicely, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a piece of tape and put it across the top so that way when I pick it up, it's all straight. Make sure the gaps are properly aligned as well. You want this to be straight with the proper gaps for it could look professional. You want to make it look like it was never taken off. So the way I do it is I'll grab a piece of tape, masking tape. I'm gonna use this one for that way I can see my letters, because if you use the big ones, you're not gonna be able to use the letters. So I'm gonna put this right across the top of the emblems. That way it grabs it all at the same time. You wanna make sure it's nice and straight with some of it sticking out the ends. And I'm gonna just let it hit the letters all at once, bam. And then stick it on there, right? Boom, it grabbed it all at one time, right? You see that? They're all grabbed at the same time. Then when we go to put it on the car, we're gonna remove the protective tape that's on here. But I also want to show you guys how to paint this, right? So after we've already taped up our decals and we see that everything's properly lined up, if you want to paint your decals, which is what this whole video is basically kind of showing you what you need to do if you want to paint them, if you want to remove them to paint them, and if you want to put them back on and make them look like they were never removed. So what I'm gonna do is, because those decals that we retaped are for my car, I don't want to paint mine black. They're gonna stay chrome. I have these extra ones that I brought to paint for you guys to see. So I'm gonna show you how to prepare these, paint them, and then we're gonna install mine back on chrome, but you're gonna see the process, and you can paint them and do whatever you want with them after you learn how to remove them and install them properly. So I'm just gonna show you how to paint these, prep them, paint them, and then reinstall them on your car. That way you could do this to any car you have for the future. Okay, we're gonna be using to paint these decals is, I'm gonna scuff them down with a red Scotch-Brite. You guys can use, let's say you got any Scotch-Brites in your house, like, you know, the Scotch-Brites you use to clean dishes or something, or any sandpaper you might have. Try to use a Scotch-Brite or a red Scotch-Brite to use to scuff them down, because scuffing them down is gonna prepare them for proper adhesion, and they'll stick properly and they'll stay there for a long time. Okay, so we already saw how we prepped them, cleaned them, and are ready to reinstall them. But I want to show you guys how you could paint your decals, right? So let's say you got chrome decals, which most cars have chrome decals, right? You take your Scotch-Brite, scuff them up real good. Try to take off as much of the shine of the chrome as possible. It's not going to remove it completely, but you want to scuff them up real good, right? So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be painting in black. This is a Rust-Oleum black, is a satin finish, and this says that it sticks to wood. I'm trying to get it in focus. Wood, metal, plastic, and more. And this is a paint primer mix, so this is a good mix for a project like this that you guys might want to do. So let's go ahead and spray these. Okay, so here I got the whole emblem. It's a Jeep emblem. I got it from a car that it was removed from, and I just wanted to show you guys how to paint these. Now this is just as simple as spraying it with a can, right? Always shake your can good before you start spraying. Always make sure to get the edges properly, because that way you're not spraying just the top of it. A lot of people seem to think that just by spraying in one direction that you're going to cover everything. You have to try to get all the edges and make sure everything's covered properly. Okay, now before we go and install the emblems back on the car, to make sure that we're aligning it the right way, I'm going to put a piece of the masking tape on the edge, because that's 3/4 inch masking tape, and the masking tape is about the same gap that it had before I removed it. So I'm gonna stick the masking tape right to this edge. That way it has a good gap right here. Just like this, right? This is where my masking tape is. My emblem was basically a little bit off. I could still see an indication of where the emblem was, so I'm gonna be able to follow that guideline to put them back on. Now I'm gonna put another piece of tape at the bottom to make sure I'm putting it on straight. Just like this. That's basically my guide and my template that I want to make sure I'm applying it straight and my gap is properly from the place that it was on the edge. All right, so now what we have to do is we have to remove the protective tape that it has, so that way this side is also sticky, so we could put it back on the car. And the way you do that is by taking your razor blade and kind of tucking the tip of the razor blade right underneath the piece of tape that's on there and lifting it away from the adhesive tape, making sure that you're not pulling the adhesive tape away from the emblem. If you feel that happening, you have to apply more pressure so that it sticks better. So it's happening to me right now, so I gotta stick it on there a little bit better. All right, let's try this again. There we go. See that? It lifted away, and now I'm gonna be able to pull it completely off. See that? Just like that. Now that is an adhesive side on this side as well. I'm gonna do it to the rest of them and then apply it to the car. Now you see how the emblems stood together on this piece of tape? Now we're gonna stick it back onto the car. Just like this. And put pressure on it when you do it as well. Good amount of pressure. You want to put a good amount of pressure on it once you get it on there. Then pull this off and you should be good to go. And that's it. See that? And that's it, guys. That's how you remove, retape, and reinstall emblems on your car. Now, yeah, I didn't paint mine, but I showed you how to paint them. That way, when you want to paint them, you know how to remove them and install them without no problems. That's it for me for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Please hit that like button if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.